Hello and welcome to Across the Pond WNBA. Michelle and myself back for another week. And it's been a week of news. Now, last week we finished recording. We think everything's fine with the world. Nothing could possibly happen. And I think, was it Sunday? Candace Parker drops a bomb. Let's be honest, drops a bomb and retires. And I was shocked because you know, she signed an extension for an extra year not that long ago, and all of a sudden, it's like, "I'm retiring." And she obviously wrote a little piece to go out, and as did the Aces as well, to be fair. What were your initial thoughts when that news broke?
To be honest, I was just happy and proud for her because I feel like she's been around for 16 years, but far beyond that, if you've known her from high school all the way through college, what she's done for the game, how she's influenced millions globally. I was just, there was always that question of you re signed and then you chose to retire. And it just makes you wonder if maybe the body is getting to that stage and that place where it's harder. I mean, as an athlete, you've been there when the body just starts to give out and it's harder. So I wondered if that was part of it. But ultimately, you don't want that to be the storyline. You really want it to be about the fact that stellar high school athlete took it to college with the Lady Vols and won two championships there. And then you see what she's done in the WNBA as a two-time MVP, three championships on three different teams. I mean, she's done some things that have not been done, and she's a fan favorite wherever she goes. So my only thing is I hope she gets the flowers that she deserves, which I think over the week the coverage and things from other people have been happening. She deserves that, and I wanna see that happen for her because she's given a lot to the game and to the world of basketball.
I kinda feel sad because I kinda feel like and maybe she's doing this on purpose, she's not getting that farewell tour, like, she probably would deserve. Like, we've seen it over the last couple of years with a couple of players that have announced their retirements beginning of the season or just into the season, and, they then get this kind of farewell tour
Yeah.
as they go around arenas, um, and I'm kinda sad that she's not gonna get that. I mean, she can still go to arenas and stuff, but I don't know, there's just been something recently of players, you know, saying their farewell kind of in person.
100. Fair shout out. That is one of the reasons I had the thoughts in my head around, it's probably a little more to it. But I also know that this isn't the last time we're gonna see her. I think she's still gonna be in some of those front offices and doing different things with different teams. Um, and we know she has that dream and that hope of owning a team. So I also see it as a move to position herself as well into life after basketball. And maybe the timing just makes sense right now for her to do that. And if that's her decision, we have to respect it and honor it. And I think she will always be tied to the game. I think she's, with TNT and some of the other things that she does, she's not going anywhere anytime soon. But I also know that there was a feeling of sadness as well because I also thought, dang, it would have been kind of dope to see her go to all the arenas and have them, give her flowers. And hopefully people will still do that by sending things or doing things so that she knows how special she has been to the game of basketball.
Oh, for sure, and what one heck of a broadcaster, by the way.
Yes.
Candace does not hold back. Like, I watch her quite regularly because she does a lot of the NBA stuff, obviously,
Yep.
during the NBA season, and I guess this means that because when the WNBA season starts, the NBA is, like, full on playoff mode. So I guess this gives her more scope to go and kinda continue doing the NBA through the playoffs, which is obviously quite an exciting time as well.
Very much so. I think that's gonna be part of her, the joy of watching her retire is I think you're gonna get more of that TNT side, and she doesn't have to hold back, she doesn't have to worry about the media stuff as much, still there, but not as much. I'm looking forward to seeing all the things that she's gonna do. We already know she has her hands in a lot of buckets, so It's gonna be fun.
You mentioned owning a team. We always talk about expansion and everything else that goes along with that. Is there a obviously she's from St. Louis, originally,
Yeah,
not one of the cities named to really be in the running for to have a team.
yeah.
Is there a city that you could see Candace owning a team?
Come on, man. I'm biased. I'm as biased as they come. So I remember back when we were initially having expansion talks on our show, we were talking about two of the places that a team should be would be a Yukon or a Tennessee just because of the fan base. I would add USC into the mix now, both on both coasts as opportunities. So if we're talking about Kansas, there's no other place that I would want to think of outside of Tennessee. Although we know she has some roots in Chicago, St. Louis. I think Tennessee is where it would make the most sense. Will that happen? Nothing wrong with dreaming and throwing it out there.
But, like, I think you've always been right with this, is put put these teams in college cities where the college game is so big, and they sell out arenas and have wait lists. By the way, just a side note, I was looking at the Golden State team that we'll have next year, 2025. They are already taking deposits for season ticket holders,
I'm not shocked. I'm
and I'm like, "That's so
not.
cool." The thing is, they don't need to build an arena. It's not as if they're waiting to build that, but it's insane.
Why not build off of the all the momentum? I think right now the WNBA is feeding off of a lot of that Caitlin Clark energy, the Final Four, then Don Staley and all the things that her and her team have done throughout this season. So the WNBA is getting a lot of that, and I think they're leveraging it well. Even when you look at the WNBA ads and the commercials that they're putting out, it's like, okay, we're starting to make some sense. It's starting to look good, and I think that will continue as teams expand and as these college players continue to migrate into the WNBA.
Yeah, for sure. Going back to Candace then, Candace did go to high school in Illinois.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't know if I'll kill the pronunciation. Naperville Central is a strange name. But then went to your college of Tennessee from 2004 to 2008 and played under Pat Summit. Obviously, you played under Pat Summit as well. From clips and things that I've seen and read, Candace and Pat, I mean, you always talked about the relationship that Pat would have with her players.
Mhm.
And I think to the public, that is one relationship that was like intertwined was Candace and Pat for those 4 years.
Absolutely. I think it's kind of like I've said so many times, Pat does a very good job of getting you to buy in because she pours into you, not the basketball player, the person. She wants to know what you're interested in. She cares about what's going on in your life. She isn't there to judge. She's more so there to teach you and guide you, and does an excellent job of enhancing everyone's character as you're in your developmental years as a young woman. And she takes that very seriously. And most of the players will say she's been like a mother figure for many of us, and she's instilling wisdom and knowledge into it, and you can see where Candace is another person who would say the exact same thing, is that she's been there from day one. She knows the things that you're going through. She's beside you during those tough times when sometimes there are a lot of tears that have nothing to do with basketball, and she's gonna sit there and cry with you. But she's also gonna be that fighter who fights for you, and I think Candace respects that, and that's why she would go out and play the way she did for Pat, and always, I think all her players have a very special relationship with her, but I think that Candace relationship is very special.
Yeah, I think it was certainly from what I could see, and obviously from there, she was drafted as the first overall pick in
Yeah,
2008 for the LA Sparks. Now, the Sparks, obviously, historically, like they started off with Lisa Leslie, and
yeah,
they've always had pretty good teams. And we always talk as well about the lack of financial support in the league. And Candice was one of these players who was not immune from that, as great as she was, and she played abroad. She played, I think, in China and um,
Russia,
Turkey,
yeah,
Russia. Um, And then something happened, like, in the Sparks where things just seemed to, I don't know, lose their spark maybe,
Yeah,
and she decided that, "You know what? I'm gonna go to Chicago." And she went to Chicago. Not only did she go to Chicago, but, like, she kinda bossed it in Chicago, won
yeah,
a WNBA championship, just her 2nd,
yeah.
and I remember watching those finals, and I remember, like, the closer it got to that final game, those final minutes, she could tell, and, like, the smile got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then obviously, like, the buzzer goes off and, like, it's elations and as it should be. How difficult would it be being on the same team for a good long time, and then suddenly you're I mean, you're home technically because 'cause you're in Chicago, which is where she went to high school, but that's gotta be quite a big adjustment going from one system that you've known forever, one organization you've known forever, to then suddenly being thrown into Chicago.
I think for Candace, it was at that place where it probably wasn't hard. They'd won the championship. She's played on, one of the best teams in the league historically. She had already gotten her ring. I mean, she was in a place where she didn't even have her own locker. So I think it was bittersweet because there's a lot in LA. You're talking about the connections that she built with the team and the family, and that's a great organization. But I just think the timing was up on that one. And I think it was a perfect transition because she's going back to Chicago. And you get to win at home in front of your fans, and you wearing jerseys every game highlighting players who have meant something to professional sports. I thought the way she transitioned, the way she played that year, there was a fire in her. Like it something she felt like she found a place where she belonged, but also a place where she could leave her mark, and she did just that. Is that an easy transition? No, absolutely not. Like you said, new system, new coaches, new players. But I think coming from one of the top organizations, I guarantee you she was very pivotal, her and James, in creating an environment that made it easier for everyone else. She makes everyone else around her better. She always has. She's one of those players that wants to win and is going to play on both ends of the floor and bring her energy. So I think it was easier when you have a player like a Candace Parker coming to Chicago and you have the right pieces around her to build that championship team. So I think it was bittersweet because in the end, it was well worth it for her.
Yeah, and then I think as you talk about the transition and about how she makes it easier for her teammates, she
Yes.
then moves to Las Vegas with
Yeah.
the Aces, who are returning champions at the time, and everyone was like, and we joked about this, oh, undefeated
Yes.
season, everything else. Obviously, injury cut the season short, but
Mhm.
you could see in that opening half of the season before she went out, you could see like I mean, I remember thinking like, how could you make this team better? And then they bring in Candace Parker, and you're kind of like, I'm still wanting to see, like, how this kinda meshes together. Because sometimes when you bring in someone who's a big star into a
Mhm.
championship team, it doesn't always mesh well. And I don't mean that players won't get on, I just mean, like, styles maybe don't mesh well, and that was my concern. But it was almost as if Candace, at her age and her point of her career, she adapted and she changed and she moved around, and I was that's what impressed me more than anything else, I think, was how she was able to transition and still make Kelsey Plum better, still make Asia Wilson better, give them more, and obviously her position, she was spreading the floor a lot as well, and that's what really helped that first half of that season for the Aces.
That's what makes her special. Candace is one of those players, she can bring it up the floor, she can take you off the dribble, she's great on the defensive end, she can hit the jumpers, get in the post. She has a well-rounded game that she has added something to every single year. She has always gotten better and better, and as she's aged, you've also seen her get smarter in terms of knowing exactly when to execute different plays when age is fighting against you. It's a different story. I think she's done that extremely
That's it.
well, and she's gonna be fine. Like, that's just something she's really good at. She gets in there, brings her personality, she brings that all the coaching she's had from great coaches throughout her career and brings that into these teams, and like you said, she's making others better. There's no ego there. It's all about wanting to win and wanting to do the right thing, and that's one of the things that I believe makes her a fan favorite.
Oh, without a doubt. Like, you go online and, like, you go on X or whatever it's called this week, and it's like there was this kind of outpouring of, "No, we don't want you to we're not ready for you to retire yet. You have to come back and do this again." And I think that adaptability, I think as well, talks to her career abroad, because when you go abroad, you are going to different systems. So although she may have been with the Sparks, for a number of years, in between that, she's been in Turkey, China, Russia, so she's been around. And even though she was at the probably one of the top players in the WNBA, I mean, we see this with Breanna Stewart as well. I
Mhm,
mean, up until recently, she was still going abroad, and she was like one of the highest paid players in the WNBA. So I think that lends itself well to that point, is so adaptable in terms of how she's able to make a team better. And I think from a star player, that's what you want. It's not all about that one player.
yeah,
It's about the whole team, getting there. But she did win 3 WNBA titles, one with the Sparks, the Sky, and the Aces last year. She won a Finals MVP. She won two-time, WNBA MVP,
yep,
I think seven-time All-Star, but, like, 5 Russian league titles.
mhm.
She made the 20th and the 25th anniversary teams, um, which is mental. Now, I've never heard of this award, but this is from college, I assume, the Gatorade National Player of the
Mhm,
Year.
yeah.
Now, I'm sorry, but America's a big place, and sometimes for people outside of the US, we maybe don't realize this, right? The US is a massive, massive place. So to be considered the number 1 in the nation, that that's pretty spectacular.
Oh, absolutely. It's a, high school award that kinda goes out every year. So this is, like, before she's coming into Tennessee, where she's getting Gatorade, McDonald's All-American, all those cool awards. I think it's crazy because when you think about high school sports are bigger than college, like, there are less colleges, so to get that type of an award is a huge accomplishment, and looking back, it's easy to be like, "Not surprised."
Yeah. Obviously, at the time, you're kinda like, "Oh, who's this Candace
Who is
Parker?"
this? Yes.
Who's this? Oh, and she's going to Tennessee too.
Yeah.
Um, Mental. She also won 2 gold medals at the Olympics in Beijing and here in the UK in London,
Yes.
when she was here. That again, like, showing up for your country
Mhm.
is something that is, for Americans especially, like, you guys do that with a lot of pride, and, like, it's got to be gold or nothing, and I think Candace through her career has always been like that.
Yes, you're right. It is a pride thing in the US. It's one where, you get silver or bronze, and it's just not the same. You remember the redemption team from the NBA? Same in the WNBA is the expectations are that we have the, strongest, most athletic players, and that should show on the biggest stages, and people take pride in making sure they show up and play.
Yeah, I think it's amazing actually when you think about it, the WNBA players, and I mean, I think we talked about this in our very first year, how you basically don't have a time off. You have a 12-month schedule because you
Who
have the WNBA, then you go abroad, then you come back to the WNBA, and it's like it's just a 12-month cycle, which, and you think about it, she's done it for 16 years. I mean, she stopped playing internationally, like, in 2018, but still, like, she's 10 years into her career, her professional career by that point.
Very true. I think, many players just we realize it's a part of the game. And although you may not have to do it now, I think players will kinda there'll be an adjustment period before you start seeing people stay home as much, just because there are big opportunities. You don't know when your playing career is over, you don't know when an injury will occur, so I think that's gonna be a part of the game. At the same time, I think it's great that she had to go overseas because it kinda gave her that global fan base in all the different countries that she's played in, the championships that she's won across the band. It just brings I think it unites basketball and brings everyone closer. So it's good. There are pros and cons to both, but, we'll see what happens in the future.
And I'm assuming that this will happen, but they'll retire her jersey in LA, surely.
I would hope so. I would hope so. They'll look crazy if they don't.
Mm, sometimes they look crazy. Anyway, just had Darvin Ham.
Let the
So
Aces retire it.
well, this is it. I mean, could they retire it? Half a
Technically,
season? Uh,
doesn't matter. She played.
oh, no, she definitely played, yeah.
Definitely played, won.
How would it
And
be if
Mark
she
Davis is that type of guy.
yeah, I was thinking
I have to be honest.
I was just thinking that, like, that's the Mark Davis type of thing to do.
Yeah, and not only that, it's a marketing tool as well. I mean, you got her jersey hanging. You're the Aces in Las Vegas. That's a huge marketing chip for other players to continue to
Yes.
build that franchise.
Talking marketing, and the Aces, I just seen a picture about an hour ago of Asia Wilson in the new Aces jerseys, which are black and silver,
Yeah.
and her hair is also silver. And they have,
Hey,
like, loads of flames and stuff going on in the background and all that kinda just marketing jazz. But what do you think about this team going black and silver? A little bit like a particular NFL team in that city.
that part. That was my first thought is brothers, sisters unite. I think it's a great move. I think it's a branding thing as well.
Mhm.
If you want the branding to be consistent across all of your teams, which would make sense for Mark Davis because that also brings marketing to the Raiders. So it's helpful twofold. They're helping each other. I think it's amazing that Asia bought in and was like, I'm gonna do the hair as well. Let me go all in. But when you have an owner like Mark, why wouldn't you go all in?
Yeah. Very he's one of those guys, I think, and I think it's one of those organizations where it's kinda like you kinda look at them from the outside in and you're like, "Oh, man, I wish I was, like, doing something there because that would be such a cool place to work."
Yeah.
He obviously, he has ideas about how the franchises in Vegas should look and should feel. Obviously, you've got a hockey team, the Golden Knights. Soon, unfortunately, they will also have my Oakland A's in Vegas as well, which I'm still not going to be happy about. Um, it'd be quite interesting if if all of those teams eventually. I mean, I know he doesn't own the NHL team,
Mhm.
but it'd be funny if like all the teams went black and silver in that league because I think it would be a first for a city for a city's professional teams to all be like one color scheme. That I think that would be quite funny.
I think it'd be actually smart. Like, why? It would be so much easier to move and maneuver in terms of now I'm talking in terms of like investors branding and selling things as a package. And now investors are getting a piece of all of it. And when you think about Mark Davis and how he's moving, it looks like that's what he's trying to implement in LA.
Yeah. Unfortunately, John Fisher, the owner of the Oakland Athletics, isn't that smart, so that's probably not going to happen. That's just my little dig at him. Anywho, he can say, I'm not angry at all. No, I'm not
I
angry that
know.
you're
I was
ripping.
like that, I can feel that you feel away.
You're not ripping my team out of Oakland at all. No, absolute tube. So on that kind note, um, Candace Parker, though, final thoughts. I feel like she is one of those players that it wasn't until I looked at it and realized 16 years in the league and so many achievements. But one thing that always kind of comes around every season
Mhm,
is the work she does in the communities that she plays.
mhm.
In LA, especially obviously because she was there for a long time. But that kind of fan engagement that, you know, WNBA players are a lot more accessible than their NBA counterparts. And I think the way that she does it, and she'll wrap her arm around a kid or whatever, and that's the thing that I think players of Candace is, we want to put them up on a pedestal because they are so great. And then they go do stuff like that where they will engage with the fans in the way that they do. And for a fan experience point, that that can be everlasting.
You're right. I think it's one of the reasons, the male entertainers, whether it was Plies, Chance the Rapper, LeBron, all these guys that are going to these games and they're saying how the women's game is different in terms of like the fan engagement, the energy in these arenas. It is different, but part of the reason for that is the engagement with fans, is they actually are accessible to the fans. And I think that has set the WNBA apart in terms of there are not many professional sports teams where you'll be able to get that close to the athletes. Will that continue? I don't know. Well, but I think it'll be an integral part of the WNBA in terms of how that has helped the league grow quickly. And maybe other professional teams will adopt it. But I think for Candace, who doesn't want someone that they idolize to take the time to just say hello, to shake your hand, give you an autograph, take a picture? It's little things like that that create lifelong fans. And I think her having the foresight to say, let me make sure I'm putting into my community and sharing and giving back. It's just smart because these are the communities that we come out of. So you always want to go back and show that it's possible for these younger kids that look up to you.
Yeah, and I think even talking about engagement, like Stacia, who does Across the Pond Liberty with
Mhm,
us, like she in the background of every show
mhm.
is the picture of herself, Pat Summit, and it's signed by Pat Summit as well.
Yep.
So obviously she had to meet Pat twice for that. Um, get printed, but like I think that's amazing that like even someone of Pat's stature, like
Mhm.
always making time for the fans. And again, like Pat, Candace, Tennessee,
Yeah.
and I think you can see a lot of what Pat instilled in players like yourself, and that still that that sentiment is still kind of going through today. And I think that's it's obviously a great legacy for Pat, but now I think it's also a great legacy for Candace and what she's been able to do and will do, whether it's a team owner,
Mm.
broadcaster, coach, whatever it is that Candace decides to do, you kind of feel like it really doesn't matter what she's going to do. She's going to do it the best way anyone can.
Absolutely. I thought you brought up a great point. Pat was one of those people that did teach that. She talked to the janitors, knew their names, and was engaging with everyone. I think when you have people in your life that set such exceptional standards, it makes it easier for those who follow behind them to see people, to like genuinely see people. So I think it's one thing to walk by people, hey, and before they answer, you're already going on about your business. But I think Candace, I think Pat, a lot of people are showing how this here, it just takes the game to another level. It unites people and it makes everyone feel like they're a part of the process, which is big. That's what sports is supposed to do. It's supposed to unite communities.
Yeah, I think it certainly does in Tennessee. Let's be sure. Now, Candace is obviously now retired. Um,
Yeah.
some slippers, Gatorade, um, and is going to be chilling out watching the WNBA this year. Wouldn't be surprised if she is with TNT or whoever throughout this season. But we are starting preseason games tonight. That is exciting in itself, and we have a game in Canada this weekend. Sadly, we're not going to be there. The Sparks and Storm are going to be there. It is on League Pass. So
Mhm,
for those of you that have League Pass, and if you don't, why not? Um, how important? When we talked a little bit last year about Toronto and it being one of the cities named as like a possible venue to house a WNBA team in the future. That hasn't quite happened as yet, but now we're going out to Edmonton in Calgary, north of Calgary in Alberta. I, I'm not sure that that was the best place because it kind of seems in the middle of nowhere. You do have Calgary and Edmonton; they're pretty big cities, but still, like Toronto just seemed to be that kind of metropolitan type place where, people go. Whereas Edmonton, not so much to me. But then I'm Scottish, so I don't know anything.
but no, I agree. Traditionally, that's exactly what we think. Bigger cities draw bigger crowds, but I also think Edmonton I think they're gonna pack it out, though. I think it's gonna be fun, but usually you don't see that. Um, it'll be I think it'll be interesting, though.
I mean, they got 2
I
good
am tickled
teams.
by your comment.
It's fine. It's alright. Canadians will not get angry at me because 'cause they're Canadian, so it's fine. Um, also they're part of the Commonwealth, the British Commonwealth, so, like, I can get away with it saying stuff about Canada. I love Tim Hortons. I
Yeah,
won't lie, I love Tim Hortons. That is some good bacon, I'll tell you.
but now I wanna go out to Edmonton.
Michelle is booking a
I
flight
want
after
some
this
I gotta
to
make a
Edmonton.
visit. I gotta see.
But yeah, I don't know.
I think it's
Like, I
probably
got
taxes, though. If you're outside of the city limits, it's cheaper. So, I would
mm,
assume that might have something to do with it.
maybe, we'll see. But preseason is always good fun
Mhm.
if you're a starter on a team and your spot's guaranteed. But this is the time where we start, and we've already seen some players getting released,
Oh, yeah.
and
Bria
and like,
Bria was a big one.
well, we've not. Then this is then we haven't even had a game yet, like a preseason game yet, and
Mhm.
Rhea's gone.
We've talked about this every year. I say this every single year. And it was interesting because now that we have Instagram and now that the women's game is such a big topic and trend right now, I promise you I was reading the comments and I could I'd be crying laughing, okay? People are funny. And these are like new fans who think they get to define the rules of the game.
Yeah,
I find it hilarious, but at the same time, I have to say, I think social media is not helping the situation a little bit because sometimes I know a player may be a favorite at a school or a college, and this is one of the things I said was going to be an issue is that transition from college to the pros is different. There may be someone in your position that has been there 2 or 3 years, knows the system. Um, they're winning, and if that's a winning team, do you break it up to give a younger player an opportunity? I know I saw comments about Sid at LA, like
mhm,
why doesn't she become a player development? And I was like, I don't know. She just won a championship. And she was one of the reasons that the team won. And
yeah,
then you have to remember fans are biased. At the same time, I get it because Bria's been there 2 years and it's had the same thing happen. I think there are a couple of things because I saw people saying, you know, some of the things you can do is you can go overseas and you can because that's where your foundational skills will develop and she would get better and better and better. I think that's an opportunity there. And I have to continue to reiterate as hard as it is to say, it's another level. It's not the college game. It is very different. You're playing every other night, faster pace, more physical. And I'm not saying that a player doesn't belong. Back to our expansion conversation, there's not enough room and
yeah.
spots.
And that's the problem that we're up against. And yeah, I think it's kind of sad that like we don't see these players get spots. And then obviously this year we've lost Elena Deladon. She's out
Yep.
for the season.
Yes.
Big part of that Mystics team. They're going to have to effectively rebuild because they lost a lot during the off season as well. Natasha Cloud
Yep.
is a huge loss. The New York Liberty still have Courtney Vandersloot. Now,
Mhm.
Courtney Vandersloot, as we know, when she was in Chicago, played alongside her wife,
Mhm.
Allie Quigley. Allie, as far as I can see anywhere, is still. She said last year that she was going to take a year out, which players do now. But I don't see her on a team anywhere, and I'm kind of concerned because, like, I really like Allie, and if she's a free agent and she's available, like, why are a team like the Aces not going and saying, you know what, we could give Allie Quigley some minutes?
I think it's a couple of things. One, does she wanna play this year, or has did she take that year off and make the decision that was it, you know? We don't know. I think we can check the free agent thing. Honestly, I wasn't checking for that particular name. I think Allie's also older player too. So that's a big deal because now you have all these younger players who are coming with social media fan bases built in. And I hate to say this, but it's the truth. There are going to be some people that make some teams just because they got a fan base and they are bringing marketing dollars to the team, not because they are better. And it's one of the things where I remember I've taken time off before too. I understood that that might have been the end of my career. There's no guarantee that you're going to come back or that the team will even need your services. Somebody may step up and outplay you. Not saying that's what happened, just saying there are many different factors that contribute to this. And one of them could be she just decided I'm good for now. I just want to, be supportive and support my wife. And if she does want to get back on the team, I think our team would definitely give her a tryout spot. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I mean,
But the
like,
spots are dwindling quick.
yeah,
Now.
well, that's what I'm thinking. Like, if she's gonna come back, would she? I mean, she could fit in New York,
Mhm.
I think. But the thing is, as well, she might
Salary.
look at it. She
Salary.
might look. Well, the salary, which is an issue for New York, but she also might look at it as, am I really going to get as much minutes as I really want to have at this time in my career?
And I think teams are looking at she has to get the veterans minimum. Do we want to pay that?
Yeah.
We can go get 2 young players for that. I think
Which,
that's the part where that back office, it's kinda like you have the player side, but then there's also the business side that sometimes we forget that leads in sports. Business first.
business first, and it's a shame. I mean, she's been in the WNBA
Mhm.
for a long time, so you kind of hope that, you know with everything that she brings, because I mean, we don't know if she was offered a deal by New York when Courtney was, because if she was, then, she could have played. But I mean, she also stopped playing abroad as well. Like, it wasn't just that she stopped playing in the WNBA. She took a year out from everything because her last year in Russia was in 2022. So, like, when she stopped playing for Chicago, that was her kind of finished. So, um, I kind of hope that she's not done, if that makes sense. Because again, like, this is another player, maybe not as high profile as a Candace Parker, but someone who has been around for a long time and really deserves, I would say, in my mind, for the work that she's contributed to the WNBA, deserves again her flowers and, that farewell tour if it was to be her last year.
True. Very true. I think we all hope for that. Sometimes life happens and we don't know. It could be something going on behind the scenes that we have no idea about. Because to me, I think, like I said, even with Candace's situation, there are many different rabbit holes we could run down,
Oh yeah,
in terms of what's going on. Same with Allie. I just hope that she's okay in good spirits and she's happy with her decision and where she is in life right now. I honestly wish that for both of them because at the end of the day, we love that they entertain us. They're great basketball players, great people, but I want to make sure they're good because I know those are difficult decisions that they both had to face.
Yeah. Hopefully, hopefully we get some news on Allie soon.
Yeah, I Googled. I haven't
Um,
found anything. You
no,
know me. I went straight to Google.
I've not seen any. I double checked. I did check earlier, but I was still checking just now,
Yeah,
and there's nothing. She's been doing some basketball camps with some
I
kids,
saw that.
but not anything in regard to the W. So it'll be interesting because there's someone as well, by the way, that I feel that could be one heck of a coach. Because I feel like, and this is just me looking from outside in, like she's someone that I think could really step into a college program and really provide like a good, because her shot is phenomenal. Like technically, it is one of the best out there, and like she could really take some guards to a side and work on guard play really well. I think she'd be phenomenal at it. At a high level, by the way, I think she'd be good at Div 1 school.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to see.
Just saying.
Allie,
Just
he
saying.
has a question for you. Feel free to
Yeah.
answer.
Ali, which college would you like to coach at? There we go. There's the question. That could be fun. So we do have preseason happening, obviously starting tonight and for the next couple of weeks. The season starts 2 days before my birthday. Would you believe? Season starts the 13th of May. Um, Obviously, I'll be 21 again on the 15th,
Oh,
um,
fall
a-
asleep.
as every year.
Mm.
I'm feeling that old. Like I'm starting to struggle to stay up to watch games past 2 o'clock in the morning. Um, but I'm hoping that I've not seen any very many advertisements for League Pass this year. I don't know if you guys have in the States, but they did send me a very nice email saying that they'd be charging me £24.99, that was, um, to watch another season of WNBA action, which I'm very happy to pay. I'd pay more. Like seriously, WNBA, if you want to charge me more, feel free. I mean, not too much, obviously. I'm not a millionaire, not yet. But I'm looking forward to this season, and I think we're gonna have some pretty good preseason games. Where I think we're gonna see some players that we might not get to see during the season unless like injuries and everything else kind of gets in the way. But this is a big year for the W because we're the year before the Golden State team comes in. It's an Olympic year. We've got that USA versus WNBA All Star weekend that's going to happen, and we've got the Aces going for a three-peat. This is gonna be a massive year, and that's not even mentioning Caitlin Clark and all this rookie class that are just coming in.
100. I think this rookie class is gonna be amazing. League Pass, do not take your prices up anymore. You're already at $35. That is more than enough. They're giving y'all discounts over in the UK because over here, oh, it's almost double.
It's the conversion rate for pounds to dollars. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say, yeah, wait, I forgot you guys have the highest, you know, the British
Yeah,
pound is
we're
kicking everybody's behind right now.
yeah, everyone's behind us.
Yes, which is a good thing. It's your turn. But I think the rookies in the league are gonna be amazing. It's gonna be fun to watch. I even love seeing all these new fans come in and getting their league passes. I don't know if you've seen, it's been a lot of talk around that on the internet. I think it's gonna make the game more fun, but it's gonna be also, I think it's gonna be good and bad because I think sometimes the conversations online are detrimental to the game, like taking one player's job to give it to another player. Let's not do that, guys. Um, but I also think it's good for the game. But with that, I think a lot of other narratives and storylines are gonna come out in terms of who deserves jobs, who deserves spots, should we expand? Some of the conversations that have been around for a while, but they will be heightened now.
Yeah.
And these rookies are gonna be the reason for that because I do think the NIL has definitely had a trickle effect that's going to flow into the WNBA.
Well, that's right, because I think we've seen Haley Van Leith, I think, signed for
Yep.
TCU, I think.
Yep.
So, yeah, and obviously Paige has decided to stay back at UConn for a year. It'll be and I think,
Smart
you
move.
know, this year for the WNBA and obviously the college basketball that'll be at towards the end of the year. I think this potential next 2 years are humongous for women's basketball in the US, and I'm just glad we get to talk about it.
I do. I think it's a beautiful thing that we get to talk about it. It's gonna be fun. I
It's
just
gonna
think
be
it's gonna
awesome.
be a ton of fun.
It's gonna
Um,
be fun.
and I also wanted to kind of note, I know we want Candace to have her farewell tour, but I think also we know she's kind of a very private person,
Mhm. Yeah.
and she always wanted to do it the other way with just the people that are close to her. And so I guess if you love her and you care about her, all you can do is just say, I hope you had your celebration. I hope she's surrounded around the people that she loves and wanted to be there. And for her, that is giving her flowers.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think sometimes we forget the privacy part, as fans, sometimes. I apologize. Um, because, like, we do want to celebrate players like Candace, like Allie Quigley, so much because they've given so much to the game. Even if you go back to Cynthia Cooper, to Cheryl Swoops, like, we always wanna celebrate those players because they've done so much for us. And it's great that we are now seeing the Caitlin Clarks of this world come through because who was it they looked up to? It was your Candace Parkers, it was your Cheryl Swoops. Well, maybe not Cheryl Swoops, she might be too young, but, like, you see the the progression of the game through the players that make the league, and I think Candace is one of those generational players. As she's ending her career, we're seeing another potential generational player in Caitlin Clark coming through.
Absolutely. And I think Candace did a great job, even in her letter of passing the torch to today's players,
Yeah,
which is classy, expected. And I think everyone is going to probably privately write call and make sure she's good because I think the foot definitely still bothering her. Probably the
yeah,
reason for the surgery, but I think or another surgery may be needed in terms of that injury and her still saying she's in pain. So I think we just want her healthy and happy.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah, and giving Shaq crap on TV, that's
That
always
part.
fun. That's always fun. I won't lie, like, Shaq's a big goofball, but, like, they love it when Candace is like, "Nope." It's fun. But, we will get out of here. We have, we're looking forward to the start of the season. We've got preseason now, so things are really ramping up. But
Mhm.
we will be back next week. Um, talk about a bit Edmonton and Tim Hortons, and hopefully no one else retires between now and then, or in the next 5 minutes after we stop recording. But otherwise, we will be back next week. So you guys have a good one. Enjoy preseason games, and if you are going out to Edmonton, wrap up warm.